32 cubic inch, big block Chevy, Dual Dominators with a tunnel ram. Got a individual nitrous system, and we just made 942 horsepower. And learned a little something from Mr. Brule here on individual O2 tuning on a carburetor.
Who would ever think it could be that far off?
That's crazy.
We've got between the biggest and smallest, we've got a 22 jet spread.
That's, yeah, when we 85 to 68.
95 to 68.
Oh, in the back. Yeah. So we did a first initial pull, super pig fat rich. Steve stopped a little early, and I think I saw like 886 on the screen.
At 6,000.
At 6,000.
I like the 830 pound-feet at 5,000.
Yeah. So
and that's not peak.
830 foot-pounds, 5,886 horsepower.
I think the floats have to come up some more.
There's our first pull. We just pulled 85 in the main to 78 on both, and we're going to re-hit it and see what happens. Nice.
I grabbed it a little higher too, but it's not going to want to rev real high with this camshaft and this many cubic inches.
What RPM was that?
6,500.
65.
So now we'll look at individuals, and this is where we start picking away at different stuff. So 4, 6. Okay, so I need a pen because now we got to start getting into the individual stuff to clean it up.
So what Steve did here, he's got 802s, one on each cylinder. Every cylinder is a different air-fuel ratio. He's going to start jotting down stuff on paper, and we're going to start individually jetting holes to try to bring each cylinder to the correct air-fuel ratio.
Number 3 is okay for now. Number 4 is going to be minus 6, which is good. It helps on the primary side.
Yeah.
Yesterday when I ran a motor, I had as much as a 110 in 2 holes.
That's
I had
insane.
80 in another.
That's fucking insane.
And it's very normal to have 15 jet number spreads
Wow.
by the time I'm done staring around. Number 5, I think we're okay here. It's going to still be a bit rich, so I'm going to say 3 out of number 5 for now. Number 6 is going to be the same as number 4, which is minus. Yeah. 5, 4.
8's about the leanest, huh?
87.
So these are secondary jets right now.
on 112, you know, honestly, you can go to 114.
Right, yeah.
Lose a little torque, but it'll help it carry
Right.
the motor.
Big motor, it'll carry it, yeah. All right, guys. Sorry for this weird rogue video here, but can't find the tripod, and I'm gonna go end up putting this up this week, so you're getting a selfie here. But so basically, the important thing of this video is just showing the individual cylinder tuning with 8 individual air-fuel ratio, 8 individual O2 sensors. So we've got an O2 sensor in every bank, and it's really interesting to see on a carbureted motor with 2 4-barrels, 1 on each, it's just basically sitting directly over the runner, CNC ported heads. I mean, everything being the same, the boosters all sitting right over the runners. How different it pulls on each booster in that plenum. There's so much like chaos in that plenum. It's amazing to see the differences of what's actually pulling on the booster. So I went over to Westech because we're adjusting our dyno and trying to tune it up to take a little bit more horsepower, and it was real fun to be able to work with Steve, who's just a master at carbureted engines and just been in the business forever. And it was, you know, definitely a great experience. I take my stuff over there from time to time, but just seeing the differences, it ended up making 60 more horsepower just individually trimming these jets. I mean, we have a variant from like a 90 something to a 68, and identical runner, the carburetor's just sitting over there, and it's just, what a difference. So for the hardcore Nelson fans, I think you'll appreciate just what that is. So here's our little cheat sheet. We're at now at 78 in the front, 92 in the back. And we're pulling individual jets on the secondary. So what you see on these cylinders, each one where he says -6, -3, -5, -5, those on those cylinders we're pulling that much more jet off the 92 number.
This is a 78, I need a 72. Let's see what number 4 says.
6, -6.
Number 1 was a 92, so now it's a 87. Number 2 is still a 78. Number 3 is still a 95. No, 92.
92, yep.
So now number 4 is a 72. That was 135, so that's going to be an 87. Number 6 equals, that was on the, so that's a 73.
That's 9 points, huh? That one, huh?
8. Better, still.
It sounds definitely better. It definitely does sound better. It's cleaner for sure. What was it hovering at on the main lambda?
11 out.
Yeah. Almost 60 I saw foot-pounds.
Okay, yeah, I think I saw it at 926 or something.
Yeah, 930 horsepower or something. I think I saw
28.
28.
Okay. Okay, that's number 4. See it landed?
Yep. So that's the difference between the
it
70, the initial jet, and then going to the 72.
Well, we went, it was fucking 85 or something.
Yeah.
And,
Then we went
you know, we
78.
did one little whack, and so we pulled it out, and it didn't change a lot. Going to 78, and then we went from 78 to 72, and it moved it to here.
Yeah.
If we can get it over there, that's all we're gonna do. It's just gonna contribute that far out of whack.
Yeah.
So,
So 4 more out of that one.
let me take a look at the rest of them. See, we're down to 6,500 basically. I wanna pull up one more time.
Is it laying over at 65, or we have more
Well,
room?
we're flat. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna run up a couple more hundred. See, that was just the last couple
Yeah.
thinking around the different jets.
Definitely improved at every run.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. Considerable improvements.
Yeah.
So basically we got number 4 being the most drastic change is down to a 72, starting at a 82 or 85 actually.
Because of wording.
Trying to remember, do we start at 82 in the primary or 85?
85 in the primary.
85. Nay. 13 down on 4, huh?
All of them were at 85.
Number 2. Number 3, number 4.
All right, so we've done a couple hits and, you know, made a good consecutive increase in power with each hit. This is probably our last change to the jets in, as far as leaning it out. And we'll see what that comes up with. And we might throw a Scotia timing into it and we'll see where we're at. I think we're right around 928 right now. I'm sure, I have a feeling we're going to get in the 30s somewhere. And that's not bad considering that this is a, you know, 13 to 1. You know, it's still a reasonable cam, but mellow.
Yeah, part of it might be because I drive past and it's pulling it back
Right.
to the start point. So
Right.
this is a big number. But I'm going to pull it down a little lower now so we can actually go through the tour. That's not bad for this much cam load.
Oh yeah,
And that's at about a cruise horsepower
Nice,
requirement.
nice.
Thing.
that was at 9.9 earlier, you know?
Yeah.
Sounds better. Yeah, a little more. Did you rev it a little higher?
I revved at 100 RPM higher.
Yeah. Saw a 32.
We were 28. I don't think these last changes are going to be very significant. Okay, now we're talking. That's pretty decent.
That 4 is there. God, it's still Rich.
See, and now what we could do.
I don't even know if I would want to take any more out of that
No,
motherfucker.
I don't. We may want to go. No, those are like 12.9.
Yeah, you could almost put a little,
Yeah,
put a
back
couple
in, keeps
back
making
in.
even. Go drain number 1 bolts real quick.
So we're gonna bump 2 degrees in it. Had 36 degrees of timing before. We're gonna bump it up to 38. See what that does. Oh yeah, I like that. I like that.
Well, you got your number. You said you wanted to pick.
It was 43 I just saw, yeah.
All right. So I'm just we're going to recap what we did here because it's probably a little chaotic. But basically, we ended up jetting number 1 cylinder 85, 278, 395, and then 468. You can see how each individual cylinder is so different. And, you know, there's a lot of things going on in the plenum on a carburetor. I mean, you wouldn't really think that, being that it's a tunnel ram, CNC ported heads, and the barrels are sitting right over the holes. You'd think they'd just all jet the same. So there's all sorts of things that are happening in the plenum. You know, there's pressure waves, there's overlap, there's all sorts of like chaos happening in that plenum. And you would think, you know, with the carburetor sitting right over the runners and the runners going fed into CNC ported heads, that all the jetting would be the same, especially, you know, like a twin 4 tunnel ram like it is. But it's not. It's very different, and it's kind of crazy to think that it's pulling a lot of different air on each booster, and you end up with totally different jets and everything. So that kind of, you know, for the hardcore Nelson fans, it's interesting and fun to see what you can do. We ended up picking up 60 horsepower, just trimming every cylinder on a carbureted motor, and you really get to see cylinder to cylinder variance on a twin 4 tunnel ram with the same runners, same CNC ported heads. And I mean, you look at that and you got a 95 and a 68 between the cylinders. Granted, there's a power valve that's a secondary and that's a primary, but there's a 68 and an 85 on one of these. So there's just a big change. And you know, we took the plug out, did a plug reading. There's a nice little gray line on the bottom of the porcelain. You would think that 1 cylinder number 4 would be lean. It's still on the rich side. So just something to be said. Here's a look at the overall numbers here. I mean, the thing's a torque monster. 806 foot-pounds at 4,500 RPM with a peak of 845 and 942 horsepower and climbing. It's a pretty bitchin' motor. I mean, it's nothing crazy because the cam is a bit soft, but you know, this is definitely gonna take him and move the car. Here's a nice graph of the power curve. 845 foot-pounds and 942 horsepower. But what's more interesting is the second graph. Second graph, make sure it's in focus here. The second graph shows where we started out at with jet. Now, our bottom black line right there is the original jet that was in it, which is actually, you know, would be considered a very close jet. that was a 85, 95. 85 in the primary, 95 in the secondary, power valve in the front. Then we went ahead and pulled it to 78 straight across. It liked it, definitely cleaned up some of the rich areas. So on a Dominator, it's always a nightmare to try to get part throttle and cruise working correct, especially with 2. So even at pulling it down 7 numbers all the way across the board on 4 jets, still 10-0 on part throttle. Nice and idle, but really rich at idle. Really rich at part throttle. This is an interesting video with the dogs and my kids in it. Then we started staggering, and with each pull you can see like the stagger increase, and then in the end we staggered one more time and bumped 2 degrees of timing in it, and we ended up making a little over 60 horsepower more. So really cool to learn about that is trimming individual cylinders on a carbureted motor and all the cylinder variants that are going on. You know, air fuel ratios of, let's say, 10-1 on one cylinder and running 13-1 on another. And it's cool to point that out. It was nice to be there and hang with Steve and have him show us you know, those little tricks on the carbureted motor, and it was you know, real fun to see and work with the guy. So another thing that you try to accomplish with the Dual Dominator big block is that you try to get at least some sort of reasonable air fuel ratio at cruise. So when we started, you know, it's idling at like 14-1 air fuel ratio, but the minute you get into the throttle, 9.8-1, 10-1, and that's always the fight between the Dominators. Well, just big tunnel ram plenum big cammed big blocks. So we just kept trying to lean out the primary side to basically get in. We ended up getting into, you know, high 11s on cruise. You could hear it get crisper and crisper, and at part throttle it got much better. And so that was another thing that we were working on in the dyno to make it streetable, because even though this is pretty much, we can call this a race car engine, he's gonna occasionally drive it on the street and he wants the enjoyability of not having it gurgle the whole time.